and I had an espresso machine.
So for the first time in, well, I can't remember, I'm just going to be a customer. I'm not going to make espresso because other people can do it just as well as I.
No, we definitely can't, but we can do it. This is the thing. Maybe not as well, but we're going to give it a go. And Dale gets to enjoy the fruits of sitting on the other side of the bench while I try and do it right. This week we have got a coffee from Bolivia, from Trapiche. It is a wash bourbon. This is really going to suit espresso. We'll see if it follows through and whether those flavours do work as well as I think they're going to work.
We've had a fair few coffees from Bolivia over the last kind of 12, 18 weeks. That's because we have just such amazing partners there with such diversity of what they're producing. So there's a number of farms in a couple of different regions of Bolivia that they have growing coffee from all of those farms. There are multiple varieties, there are multiple processes. All of these coffees are interesting. They all benefit from Bolivia's incredible high altitude, from its very traditional ways of farming, and also from that kind of expert input of the team at AgroCafe. So they're really in the know about different agronomic systems. They are paying and supporting experts to come in and kind of experiment with what's being done, but also help some of the producers they work with, because it's not just their coffee, but it's producers' coffee that they partner with that they're processing. They really help them maximize what their region and what their plants can do so that they can get the best return on their effort. So Trapiche, tell me about that farm.
So Trapiche is in Samapata region. So this is kind of southeast of La Paz, which is the traditional producing region. And it's a very new farm. 2016 it started production. And we had it last year. You won't know about this, you won't remember this, because it was one that we used for our secret stash. We're not allowed to talk about this, but end of the year, we do a special subscription. It's only for subscribers for the whole year. And I really enjoyed the coffee. I think we all really enjoyed it. And it's one we felt we wanted to be able to get a bit more from this year. We've gone back and bought a bit more, so you get to enjoy it as well. The farm is inspired by winemaking. So that part of Bolivia, Samapata region, is traditionally a winemaking region. And the team at AgroCafe have got a big affinity with winemaking. Now, Trapiche is the name of the rollers that we use to crush grapes and also olives and other fruit. It's got big wooden rollers, effectively. And it's also the name of a winery in Argentina. And they've really followed through that inspiration onto the farm, which they've planted, much like you would plant a vineyard, rather than how you traditionally plant coffee. So there's a lot of experimentation here in terms of the agronomic side of things. The coffee itself is bourbon, so a very classic varietal again for us. And this one has been washed with an anaerobic phase to it. This means it's been sat with the cherries in water for a period of time to let the pH drop a bit before it goes through a more traditional washing process.
And the subscribers, the subscribers last year, was that the same process or is it a different process?
No, so this is, slightly different. We had the wash bourbon from them last year. This is our first year trying out these anaerobic and lactic style fermentations that they've been doing. It's an extra step in the process. So I don't think it changes the flavour profile a huge amount. It maybe helps keep it a really clean and crisp flavour, but it's not a huge change.
So I think all of these kind of novel processes, I think that story of how we were able to buy a small amount of coffee from this farm through existing relationships, and because we could see the quality and the intention there, because we know those people, and because we try with a little bit first and then we can expand it. So this year will disappear to you guys for in my mug. Maybe next year will become a main lot that goes on the website for a little bit longer. It is that kind of step-by-step process, and that's really how we maintain quality from the people we buy from. Experimental processes get a lot of attention. They can be really interesting. Little aspects of them may feed into how farmers process bigger lots. It may be more of what they do because it may have other benefits, not including flavor. It may speed up parts of the processing. It may mean that it's easier to maintain cleanliness or move more coffee through a processing station. So all of these things are additional benefits that are there. the one we're really focused on is the information that we're telling you about the coffee, so that little bit of provenance and story. That, along with the processing, how does that impact the taste? And, when it does, it's really exciting. When it doesn't, that's interesting too. What's my espresso?
So, as like any professional, I dialed in the espresso before we started recording this, and it is now going substantially too quickly, so I am going to just try dial it in again.
I appreciate your sacrifice, Roland.
So I'm aiming for around 28 to 30 seconds for this. I put 18 in, and I'm looking for about 32 grams out. This was pretty much where we kind of started my first shots, and it came through really nicely. However, I just hit 20 seconds after having left the machine alone for a little bit.
How fresh is the coffee?
So that's a big factor. This was roasted yesterday, so it is still very changeable. However, that time we got 27 seconds and about 34 out, so a little bit more out than I would like.
So I'm going to give that one a little swirl. I'm just waiting for it to cool a little bit. I find espresso, when it's hot, straight out of the machine, is not as delicious as it can be. Giving it a few seconds and letting those, letting the temperature drop down a little bit will give me a nicer, more interesting flavor experience. That ties a little bit to what we did last week, where we were doing hot brews and cold brews over ice. Something that I've been playing with over the last week is using my automatic at home to make those same ice brews, just to keep me going through the week. So automatics are available again now. We have Chemex papers. Love to know what you think of it if you're brewing that way. All right, so I need to taste this espresso while Roland works hard.
So the reason that I suggested this one for espresso is that for me, there's a lot of chocolate in this coffee. And it's a low acidity kind of coffee. It's not a super bright one, but the texture is really nice.
Espresso's always going to exaggerate acidity that's in a coffee. So if there isn't that much in the filter when you brew it as espresso, it comes out, it shines a little bit. And so for me, this has a really nice acidity that's just there, it's just raising the cup.
Again, espresso also really exaggerates that texture. So for me, I really like coffees that have got a lot of texture into espresso because that exaggerates it even further.
I'm tasting red apple, maybe red grape, lots of milk chocolate. It's really, really nice milk chocolate as well. Very sweet, very clean. That texture is, it's not heavy, it's well-rounded, it's got real depth to it, but it doesn't feel heavy and filling, it just feels nice and kind of creamy and rich. It's great. I wonder whether I can taste any of the flavors that people associate with anaerobic processing. So spices, sometimes people mention cheese, these are all things that people relate to that processing. Yeah. This is a different variation of that, right?
I think it's very easy when we're looking at these labels that you give to coffee. We think maybe bonds are all going to be a bit similar, or maybe washed coffees will all be a bit similar. And the reality is that all of these are quite different. So a washed coffee from Kenya, the processes on it is very different to the washed coffee from Bolivia. The kind of steps it's gone through are really different, even though we're using the same word. And the same is true with the anaerobic, probably even more so, because anaerobics and lactics, they're processing. There's a really new kind of thing that's come on the last few years, and everybody who's doing it is kind of doing different things. There's definitely going to be some element of removing oxygen, but how significantly that impacts flavour and in what way it impacts flavour will change a lot from one coffee to another. So just because it says that doesn't mean you should necessarily expect those same flavours to be produced in all examples.
And if you really want to dive deep on this, there is a podcast by an amazing lady called Lucia Solis, who is really focused on fermentation in coffee. She's a former person who worked in the wine industry. I think that's probably the best way to phrase it, who moved into coffee, looking at yeast and different fermentation styles. And there's some really interesting, deep conversations about what fermentation means and how it can be used to benefit things, the drawbacks, and also how we use these terms to describe things. You know, again, when you're making buying decisions, I think really focusing on those flavors that people are using is probably the best way in. And it doesn't mean that the flavors that are on a bag are the ones that you're going to experience. A lot of it can be tied to how we're brewing. So the flavors for this coffee that we put on the bag will be tied to what we've experienced when cupping. But when Roland brews this espresso this way, that's going to change the balance of flavors. It's going to push up that acidity, do different things. I think trying to make too big a leap between the processing words and what that coffee is going to taste with and whether it's going to make you happy is a challenging one. But if you use those flavors and know, okay, that's what that roastery or those cuppers thought this coffee tasted like, does that match what I've had from them before that I enjoyed before? That could be a really good kind of way of getting.
And I recently had a question from a customer, which was about, tried a natural processed coffee that she really enjoyed, and she didn't think she liked natural processed coffees. She was really surprised that she enjoyed this one. And it's again that question about how did she go about choosing the ones that she was going to enjoy from the ones that she didn't. And it does come back to looking at those flavour notes and saying, what are the ones that I've got that I've enjoyed, got in common, from the ones that I've not enjoyed? And sometimes that might be the country they've come from. Maybe you love most of the naturals coming out of Brazil, for example, which are very different. Maybe it's the words we're using. Maybe it's a particular roastery or a particular style that you're doing, or there's lots of things you can look for, but looking for those common features and trying to identify them. I think you learn a lot more than trying to pick on those words, which can often be a bit misleading.
So just to finish this off, this is just a little bit above body temperature now. Those flavors have really kind of compacted, really come together. That crispness and that acidity, that kind of red apple flavor is now muted, so it's a little bit dried fruit. It's a little bit like a dessert wine as well. If you can imagine a hot dessert wine, what a wonderful thing. It's a great espresso. Thank you, Roland.
Thank you.
So we'll be back next week. See you soon.